What's your glitch in the Matrix story? I have a fairly unique face. Big chin that's kind of crooked and sleepy eyes. Think Mike from Breaking Bad eyes. I also have blonde hair with streaks of white in it. In the 90s I grew it long. So, fairly unusual look all around, particularly since the area I lived in was majority black. I was waiting to cross the street, and across the street there was this guy that looked a lot like me. Down to what I was wearing. We're just kind of staring at each other. As we cross, we both slow down and actually come to a full stop to just stare at each other. We didn't just look a lot alike. We were ducking identical. I may have imagined it, but I think he even had the same scar on his eyebrow. The light changed. Cars honked and we both scurried across in opposite directions. We both looked back and then kept going. Still kind of freaks me out. Had a cat I rescued from the shelter. Living with 2 other guys in a house that did not allow pets. Cat got out and ran away. 2 years later I was at the shelter looking for another rescue cat. I recognize Yoko, my cat from 2 years ago. She answered to her name and jumped into my arms when she saw me. Rescued the same cat twice. Years ago. Some friends were staying at my house for a while. Anyway, I wake up one morning, make coffee and go to make toast. But the toaster isn't where it's always been. I figure one of the friends moved it, so I check the cabinets. Every single cabinet. Check the pantry. Even all of the appliances, the stove, microwave, refrigerator, dishwasher. Then checked everywhere a second time. Toaster has vanished. One of the friends comes downstairs. I ask if he's seen the toaster. He goes through the same routine. Checking everywhere. No toaster. His wife comes downstairs. Same routine. Still no toaster. We're all still in the kitchen. Talking about how the freaking toaster just disappeared. I open the pantry to get something else. There's the toaster, front and center. At our level. We had looked there at least 6 times. None of us had left the kitchen at any point and nobody else entered it. Friend takes the toaster out of the cabinet. Grabs a large knife out of the drawer. Cuts the cord off the toaster and tosses it out. I bought a new toaster that afternoon. Didn't want to use a haunted toaster. Edit, my first gold. Thank you. Redditas. Getting money out of an ATM. Put my card in. Entered my PIN and it chose the amount of money I wanted. I was waiting about 5 minutes for my card and money to come out when nothing did. Starting freaking out trying to call the bank when I looked in my wallet. My card exactly where it was before I took it out, but with no money in my wallet. Weirdest experience ever. Girlfriend was there too and also saw me put my card in the machine and enter my PIN, etc. Maybe you put in the wrong card and tried to log in with your PIN. But the machine ate that card. I think I have told this story before. A couple of years ago my parents, sister and I went to a cousin's wedding in Granada, 5 hours away from my hometown. We stayed the night. We headed back home next morning around 11 AM. We were gossiping about some drama that happened on the wedding. I was having cake for breakfast. Suddenly my sister goes, "Is that Cerro Negro? A volcano visible from Leon, my hometown." That was impossible because we have just hit the road like 20 minutes ago. Then we saw all the "Welcome to Leon" billboards. There is no way we drive for 5 hours without noticing. The drama was not that interesting and a cake wouldn't have lasted 5 hours in my hands untouched. Besides, between Leon and Granada there is Zolotlan Lake and Managua. Managua is the capital city, both extremely hard to miss. We double checked the clock and our cell phones. It was 11:20. TLDR, we were 5 hours away from our hometown and somehow we make it back home in about 20 minutes. Once upon a time I worked at a pizza shop and had to wash dishes at the end of the day. I was in the back, sweeping the floor, while a faucet poured water into a big, commercial 3-hole sink. This faucet was super duper loud. Someone came back to talk to me and I couldn't hear them over the roaring faucet. Without thinking about it consciously, from way across the room, I extended my hand and kind of made a squeezing motion, and the ducking faucet turned off. The guy trying to talk to me went pale and left the room. And it was never spoken of again. I still don't know what he wanted, and I've never been able to reproduce this moment of telekinesis or whatever it was. An older woman at a grocery store left the lights on her car and the battery died. I saw her trying to get it started. I went over and asked her if she needed help. She said she wasn't sure what was wrong. I looked and said the battery was dead, but I have cables and can help her. I gave the car a jump and she was good to go. She thanked me and left. I went into the store and came back out, and there was another older woman in the same make, model and color of her car parked a row over with a car that wouldn't start. I was sure it was her and walked over and asked what happened now. The woman looks at me confused and said, "We've never met before." It was a different woman. I thought I was going insane. Her issue was with the starter. Rocked the car a bit and it started. Things appear. I'll pass an area 1000 times and then one day there's something that's always been there. I don't believe. Sounds kind of like Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. Your mind might have stumbled across that obscure piece of info or site and now you automatically notice it. Happens to me all the time. A friend will get a new car, then all I see on the road is that car. Or I'll learn a new word or phrase and it starts showing up every other day. It's a pretty awesome phenomenon. Our brains love patterns, so sometimes they give a pattern and create importance in an unremarkable event or item. I remember the crash. My dad was T-boned in his green Nissan. It was emerald green. I loved the color, which wrote off the car. I remember telling the police all about it at the scene. I remember my parents telling me to tell the doctors that my neck and chest hurt, even though they didn't. I remember having a week off of school, which was fun. I remember my dad berating the insurance company over the phone. So a few years ago, when my dad bragged about how he had never been in an accident, I took the smug pleasure of correcting him and reminding everyone about the accident. Only everybody looked at me like I was going crazy. According to everybody in my family, my dad has never had an Nissan, in that he would never have or drive a green colored car because he thinks they're unlucky. I've pushed it. Insisted it. Told my family everything I remember and they all say exactly the same thing as above. Walked into a convenience store and was greeted by a worker with a "Hi, how ya doing?" I replied fine. Went to the soda aisle and was greeted by the same women, "Hi, how ya doing?" Me being a little weirded out how this woman could have ran around the aisle to beat me there. Grab my soda and head to the checkout, and the lady is behind the ducking counter. I was very high and this was freaking me out. Then her sister came behind the counter. They were twins working in the store and I'm laughing the whole time I'm checking out. Fianke and I moved to a new apartment in January. After we unpacked the kitchen stuff, I realized I couldn't find one of the pot lids. Complained about it. Complained about it off and on for the next 10 months until I found it last month in a drawer I use nearly every time I cook. It was maddening. Not my story, but my dad's. He was fishing with some friends. And when they came back to where the car was parked, discovered that someone had came and stolen gas from the cars parked there. My dad and his friends walked into town to get gas. They came back to the car, filled up, and left. A few days later my dad drove by where the gas station was. There was nothing there. No building. Just a fence surrounding a lot full of weeders that could not possibly have grown that high and thick in a few days. But that gas station's been closed for 40 years. I was walking down a semi-crowded sidewalk. A good amount of people. But not too many. You know? Anyways. Point is, this woman in front of me tripped and stumbled a bit, sending her phone into the air and onto the ground. I saw and heard this phone hit the ground. Saw it shatter. And then I blinked. And it was back in her hand. Perfectly fine. She was walking like nothing happened. I was wrapping Christmas presents at our dining room table. I used scissors to cut the wrapping paper. I set the scissors down on the table. Finished some final taping on the present. Then carried the present over to the tree. When I returned to the table 30 seconds later, the scissors were gone. I'm known for losing things right in front of my face. So I called my wife into the room to help me look. I assumed she would find them in a few seconds and laugh at me. But not this time. We looked everywhere, including emptying the trash can just in case I accidentally threw them away while tossing away scraps of wrapping paper. After quite a bit of a searching, we both gave up and said, well, they'll turn up eventually. We witnessed the presents being opened a few weeks later and the scissors didn't wind up wrapped along with a present. So we ruled that out. We moved 4 years later and those damn scissors never turned up. Our running joke was gnomes took them. Now whenever anything is lost, we chuckle, damn gnomes. Had a dream I was sitting down for a pancake breakfast and the waiter asked if I wanted milk or OJ. 3 weeks later, at the same restaurant from my dream, had never been there before, had the same waiter, who I had never seen before, ask me if I wanted milk or OJ. Was tripping with a few friends and one of the other guy's girlfriends and I connected. Had a weird revelation and saw envisioned us married. We had just met like a few weeks before. 7 years later and we're married with 2 beautiful children. Glitch in the Matrix or just the LSD talking? I'll let you decide. Regardless. Coolest and trippiest moment of my life. 3 years into high school. Sat at the same benches as always. I look up into the courtyard and go, huh? Is that tree new? One low tree. Apparently had been there the whole time but I just didn't see it for 3 years. I threw a rock at a window and it smashed, but then a few minutes later the window wasn't smashed. This happened about a month ago. I took a bowl of leftover pasta out of the refrigerator and set it on the counter. I turned to get some bread and when I turned back it was not there. I am 100% sure that I had the bowl in my hands at one point. I looked for at least 15 minutes for it. All over the house. I remember looking for it in the sink. I thought I was losing it. I called my wife and left several messages. When she got home from class I told her about it and she said that she had it for lunch. And that the bowl was in the sink. It still bothers me to think about it. My Fiancé's fish jumped out of its tank. Never seen again. Not even the corpse. They don't have any other animal and the floor was clear. Every time I'm walking in the park, I walk behind my tall friends. With that being said, I sometimes run through spider webs that were supposed to be broken by the people in front of me. I hate spiders. And a spider web in the mouth is such a horrible feeling. My friend and I were once outside his house while he changed his girlfriend's car battery. It was after dark and it was super foggy out that night. We were just talking when suddenly a white light flashed from everywhere for a split second. We looked around to see what could have caused it but didn't see anything. None of the neighbors' lights were on. No cars were nearby. Nothing. To this day, we remain convinced that a Terminator went back in time to his neighborhood. One day I'm hanging out with my brother and his wife. As we're chatting, we mention Gauntlet, Legends registered sign and wife says what's that? Both my brother and I respond the exact same sentence with perfectly matched intonation and voice tone. We said, oh it's a. We glance at each other and then say a game. We collectively sheet a brick at how we even matched the drawn out way of saying game. Even the glance was like we had rehearsed it. We can chalk it up brothers spending lots of time together. I was waiting for my son's football match to start so I went to get a coffee. There was 2 people serving. One was a lady who was bending down sorting out stuff under the counter and a bloke standing up. He looks at me and asks, what you having mate? I reply black coffee please. No problem he says sugar? 2 please mate I say. The lady stands up and nods at me as if to say hello. I nod back and turn around to see if my lad's game has started. When I turn my attention back to the coffee stand they are back in the same position. What you having mate he says again. Yeah, black coffee I say. No problem. Sugar? Yeah, 2. The lady straightens and nods at me. It was so weird that I felt off for the rest of the day. I regret not saying didn't we just do this? but for whatever reason I just wandered off. I remember once I had to be up at 7:20 to get ready to do something. I woke up, saw it was 20 past. I showered, brushed my teeth, dressed, had breakfast, got my stuff together and had a bit of spare time, so had a read. Then I noticed it was really quiet and still quite dark. I had woken at 12:20. I had only slept for 20 minutes. This was truly bizarre. I had no choice but to go back to bed. Then I woke at 8. Late for my appointment. Well, a girl in my high school class that sits next to me suddenly changed skin color one day, black to brown, and I was like, OHH, guess she moved. Then everyone is calling her the same name and I'm like, wow, what a coincidence, but she also has the same last name, Suo. Street lights. True story, myself and my wife counted, and in the span of 1 month, I had at least 2 street lights per night go out while I passed under them. At one point we had a string of 8 lights go out in a row as I passed under each one. After that month, it was May, I haven't had a light go out since. Me and my parents were looking for the car in a shopping mall parking lot. We just left the late night movie session, so it's quite empty because the mall is closed. We left the car in the 6th floor. So we go to the elevator and press 6. The doors open and we're on the 5th floor. We walk back inside and press 6 again. Doors open and we're on the 7th. Okay, there's probably some issue with the elevator. We look for another one. Same thing happens. We try another one and there's no number 6. Okay, let's take the stairs. There's no door for the 6th floor. So after about 40 minutes wandering around thinking we entered a wormhole and are stuck in a ducking parking lot, we suddenly end up on the 6th floor and find the car. Went with 2 friends to a condo they used only on the weekends. Myself and one of my friends were wearing sunglasses and took them off when we entered the condo, because it was not a primary residence. Furnishing was sparse. Couch, coffee table, dining table, a loft bedroom with a bed, dresser, nightstands, and that was pretty much it. We put our weekend bags away and then got ready to leave for lunch. But my friend and I could not for the life of us find our sunglasses. The condo was tiny with only a handful of places to put something. Yet, both pairs were missing. We gave up and went out to lunch. When we returned, everyone took a nap. I woke up with a start and found my sunglasses resting on my chest. This was in the loft bedroom, which was not anywhere near where I would have placed my sunglasses upon entering the condo. My friends were both completely conked out and snoring away. Can't explain it. My other friend never did find her sunglasses. Was on a train listening to music when I looked at what time it was. After listening to a 3-4 minute long song, I look at the time again and it's 10 minutes later. To this day, I still can't explain it and swear that I only listened to one song, not multiple. True story that still scares the shit out of me for reasons I don't understand. I was 15 at the time. Had a dream where I went to this arcade I'd normally frequently go. I was with my buddy, and before walking outside to wait for our ride we both buy sodas to go. We're squatting outside on the curb holding our drinks, looking into the parking lot. I finish my drink and for no reason I start putting my hand in my soda cup and continually throw ice out of the cup onto the ground. I pause for a second and say softly to myself, huh? Deja vu, as even in my dream I was thinking I'd seen this somewhere before. I then lift my head up, look left, and see 2 kids with skateboards riding. And then I wake up. About 10 days later, I'm at the arcade again with my same buddy. Before walking out to wait for our ride we both buy sodas. We go outside and sit on the curb in the same spot in my dream. I finish mine and again I start repeatedly throwing ice out of the cup. I pause and say softly to myself, huh? Deja vu. I freeze in pure terror, realizing I was repeating the same actions in my dream, and recognizing that the deja vu I had in my dream was only deja vu because it's now happening 10 days later. I slowly crank my head to the left because I heard some noise. and to my further shock I see two kids walking towards me with skateboards in their hands. I sprung to my feet and started flipping out with my buddy still sitting, confused and asking me what was wrong. For what it's worth, purchasing a soda while leaving and throwing ice out of my cup aren't normal rituals. In fact, it was the first time I could remember doing either of those two things.